This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com. Hi, I'm Beatty Carmichael, and welcome to the Get Sellers Calling You Realtor Podcast. I'm excited today because I get to interview another wonderful agent, actually one of our clients, and a strong producer named Joanna Keskitalo from South Carolina. Did I pronounce the last name right, Joanna?
You did well.
Okay, cool. So, hey, Joanna, I just want to say thank you again for being on the call with us today and sharing some of your insights in growing a business and things that really make it work for you.
Well, you're welcome. So I'm glad to be here.
Now, which part of South Carolina are you in?
Kind of the upstate, a little bit into the mountains. Where I live is about 15 to 20 minutes from the North Carolina border. So they call it the upstate Greenville area. So.
Well, that's a pretty area. I know I used to spend a lot of my time in the mountainside of North Carolina, and we would come down into Greenville. I used to paddle rivers. So this is, in grade school, junior high, high school, and so we'd go up there and all kinds of beautiful rivers, and one or two of them were down in South Carolina. So that's a gorgeous area you're in.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and just for the listeners on the call, normally we do these as video podcasts, but as the Lord would have it, or as the enemy would have it, we couldn't quite get that to work out. So this will be a great call, but it's entirely audio. And so, Joanna, tell us just, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of set the stage. Can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and about your real estate business and who is Joanna Keskitalo?
Yes, I've been in the real estate industry since 2006. Before that, I was a loan officer and kind of grew up in the building industry I was born and raised in Florida, and then moved up here the end of my junior year. And then from there, I did massage a little while, and then went to college, and then I started as a loan officer, and my father was a home builder who actually took me on as his real estate agent. So now it's been about 14 years, been through a couple different brokerages, and started my own brokerage about 8 or 9 years ago. Have about 7 agents underneath me now, and we did about $22 million last year, about 108 transactions, and I've already closed out $6 or $7 million this year and have about $8 million pending. So
very good. And is that all your personal volume, or is that you and your whole team?
Well, I kind of run it more like a team where it's all my leads and everything. So yes, I'm involved personally pretty closely in each transaction. So
very, very cool. I love it. Now, I just have to ask this question. It done has, I've always wondered the difference between a loan officer and a real estate agent. Obviously, you enjoy the realtor side more than the loan officer. What's the big difference that you have found?
I mean, I would definitely say the people interaction versus paperwork is probably the biggest thing. And I wasn't good at sitting behind a desk. My first job out was with GE through Kelly Services, a staffing company, and I was under the admin for probably 22 male engineers, and I lasted about a month and a half in this cubicle doing schematic drawings and looking at where they don't meet each other, or, the schematic drawing is like, no, that was not for me. So definitely being around people and is definitely more of a passion and joy than shuffling paperwork, and so.
I love it. So my 24-year-old son, he was 22 at the time, he got this intern job one summer. So he's studying. He's already graduated now, but at the time he was in supply chain management. So he gets this job at this $200 million a year business. They put him in a cubicle with a computer. His job was to do supply chain management type stuff. He calls me during the first day of the job. He said, "Dad, I can't stand this. I never want a cubicle job ever again."
Yeah.
He learned real quick that was not him, so I love it.
No, and I mean from there, I mean the commission structure for me and a go-getter and someone that can do things on their own. I mean, I cannot. I'm way too efficient to be punching a clock. Like.
I get it. So let me ask you a question, the go-getter side. So you've obviously, I mean, you've been a go-getter. It's obvious. You started your career. You quickly moved into having your own business, being your own broker, building a team. You're involved with everything. Talk to me a little bit. So, most agents out there, their biggest struggle is getting enough leads and prospects to talk with and to work with. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you built kind of a machine of some sort, at least some system. What are you doing? What do you do that you've found to really work well with you guys?
Yeah. Well, like I said, my father was a home builder, and that really started, and I guess that's a blessing, but it was that he struggled in finding a real estate agent that really was proficient enough for him to handle and knowing in the construction industry. So I can't say I wasn't blessed in getting, a start. But you have to pound the pavement. You have to follow up with people. I would not describe me as maybe that's wrong to say, but like an old car salesman type. I'm not pushy, but I am persistent. Like follow up. I mean, that's just what you got to do, and that's and then in not only following up once you're in the transaction is to follow through and follow through till they're to the closing table. Like, it's way easier not to let those go and just wait for the next buyer as fighting every portion that it takes to get them closed. So I would think that, follow up and follow through are two biggies that a lot of people do fail at because it's consistent and it's hard work. So I think those are two things that you would need to be a successful real estate broker or agent.
Well, they say that the fortune is in the follow through, and that is so true. I was telling another guy today. This was a few years back. We had a handful of sales reps, and one sales rep I was telling about. First 3 weeks after doing a presentation, he had the lowest conversion rate. But within another 4 weeks, he had the highest conversion rate of anyone because the fortune is in the follow through.
Right.
Do you have so in terms of the people that you guys work with and the work that you do, are you and I want to understand who your prospects are, and then find out a little bit about your follow up and how you manage it. Do you do you follow up with different leads differently? I mean, are you first off, I guess, what type of leads are you generating? Are they coming to you? Are you buying leads? Are you generating your own? Where's your business source coming through?
Well, I'm a little bit different because the new construction and the custom home side, and that is, our main builder is my father and husband, so I handle all of their customers. So we're doing a lot of just name building through social media and through the websites, and so I guess the follow up or follow through as far as that goes, I mean, just pictures and constantly updating all the websites and that kind of thing. I mean, this day and age, a lot of social media on all the different sites. So I do that through the real estate side and the building side. And then the building a lot of times they'll have a house to sell, and so I will get those listings. But then in general, I mean, it's not even 50% of my business that comes through the custom and that. And we, I mean, once you're in 14 years, yes, we have a database system, use Top Producer, and then you're doing now the postcards and the Monday morning coffees and that kind of follow up with past referrals and past clients. A lot of, again, through social media. I mean, it is easier that way if you can build a relationship where you can be Facebook friends with them. They get to know you. They feel like they get to know you more personally, you know, if you are a little bit more open and vulnerable in that social media. That all that kind of stuff helps. But a ton of marketing in every way. So
yes. So and, you know, it's interesting. You're talking about Facebook and just being vulnerable. I think it is so important. So you've got all your past clients and all your other contacts are all friends in your Facebook, right? Facebook friends, right?
I try, you know what I mean, I do hold a private account, you know, personally, and then obviously the real estate and building pages are public, but I'm still a little bit, you know, hold myself.
Right.
I haven't got, my personal pages are still held private, but that I think they appreciate where you're accepting or asking them for friend requests, and it is where you can be, you know, more, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but more personal in your post and that kind of stuff without worrying about it being on a totally public forum. So,
you know, when you said that, the thing hit me, and I finally maybe connected a dot that I've always been spinning back in my mind. So to set the stage, one of our other clients used us, and then he was also did a Facebook community page for, it was a 1,500 home farm he was in, and he was the administrator on the page. So every time someone joined the Facebook page, as the administrator, he would welcome them, but then he would also send them a friend request personally from his Facebook account. And this is what he started to share with me. His name is Nelson, and he started to share that you know, he put everyone on his as friends on his Facebook account, and then he was just normally, you know, updating things just personally, what's going on in his life and those things. And in I think it was 18 months, he went from basically nothing, no market share in that farm, to like 25% market share. Another 18 months, he was at 50%. And you connected the dots. Is when they know you, they see you all the time, and now they feel like they're you know, they see you on Facebook, and so they feel like they really they know you more, and it makes it more personal.
Right.
That's neat. So talk to me in terms of follow-up. So follow-up. How do you manage? Okay, so you're working with a lot of people, and you get a lot of business from the construction, and a lot of business, I guess, from past clients and just other people. Do you use? Tell me about your follow-up system, because this is one. And I'll be honest. This is when we work with clients. This is one of the big challenges. They're not. They don't have a good system. What have you found doesn't work? What did you kind of do in the early days that just kind of blew up on you? And then what have you found really makes it all work for you?
I'll have to think about that one, but I mean, I have used, I mean, a database system, I mean, once it gets messy, so I still have Top Producer because I have those leads in there, and then, you know, now I'm pretty strict on my admins and stuff on keeping that database, because, you know, if it gets big enough and a big company wants to look at buying you out or something, really the only thing that you are selling is your database. So I went from like not understanding that and caring about my database as like now it's part of closing steps, where you where, I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to afford admin help at this point, but if you had it clean from the beginning and people would be from step one, what you can build to sell later is so important, and it's easier to start at step one than trying to find out and then figuring out if they moved and where. But now it's part of closing steps where we convert, where we get, when they go to closing, we get the emails and that kind of thing, and it's cleaner in the process, and it's a much cleaner database. And that's then, you know, at the latter part of my career, it should have been done from the beginning, but you know, you just think you're going to work forever. when you get in the business in the 20s, you just think, oh yeah, you just now I'm like, think about retirement someday, and and then all of follow-up and everything can be more set if your database is clean. So I would preach even more more to database than follow-up, because then a lot of stuff can be automated. And I mean, like we talked about, I mean, phone calls are difficult. I mean, I'm on the phone all day long, but I think that, and I have to admit, with our last conversation, and maybe the people won't know what we're talking about, but I talked about maybe we don't need to, when you get to, I'm trying to articulate this better, when you get large enough and you don't really need the business, the phone calls slack off. So maybe we were talking about looking at it from, maybe that person needs to hear from you, will make it easier on me to make those phone calls, because if I'm looking at not so much as a business aspect and the next deal, because you will eventually, you get so busy and stuff, and then you do develop a well-oiled machine that kind of generates their own leads and stuff. The phone calls are the easiest thing to go, and like we talked about, people are the only thing that you can invest in that will be eternal in this life. So again, I haven't done that, and I get busy, but it's definitely, it gave me a different perspective on follow-up. So.
Hey, let me, and I love that. Gosh, there's so much I want to try to pull out of you, and I know I won't have time to, but I'm seeing all these rich targets to inquire on. Let me take that last comment, and so for those listening to this, what we had talked about last time is I was sharing with Joanna that one of the most important things you do with your personal list, especially your personal list, but any list, is they do business with you first and foremost because they like you and they know that the relationship is authentic. And so one of the things that we teach our clients when we provide our Agent Dominator service is for them to reach out and make a phone call and or drop by and actually personally engage. And it's not an engagement that says, hey, do you have any more real estate business I can help you with? But it's a, hey, how are you today? You know, I was just thinking about you. And this is where, Joanna, you were mentioning you're so busy you just don't have time. And we were talking about you need to make time, and then we talked about on the eternal aspect that the most important thing is rather than calling for real estate, call for personal needs. And I think somewhere in this conversation, I was talking with you. In fact, the way this kind of springboarded is I reached out to you a moment before our call. This was a couple of weeks ago. And on your voicemail, you mentioned, something about at the end and be blessed. Do you remember putting that on your voicemail?
I do.
Yeah.
It's kind of been what I do for years because, man, life is hard now. You know what I mean? People are mean, and just if someone needs to, and our blessings do come from the Lord, and I want everybody to be blessed, and I'm going to cry. So, I do. I just want to spread that. If that spreads anyone's cheer, just listening to my voicemail, it's better than like, hey, leave me a message and I won't get back to you. At least they've heard that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have done that on my voicemails for years, and I will continue to do so. So.
Well, and I do that too. But that, because I commented to you, I said, tell me about this Be Blessed, and we got in the conversation that you love the Lord Jesus and that He's a real integral part of your life. And this is then where I was suggesting to you when we last talked is, well, make these phone calls to your list, but don't worry about business. The Lord's going to take care of it. Why don't you just reach out as a person and say, hey, is there anything I can pray for you about? Or just something like that, and use it as a ministry outreach. And that's what you were talking about. I just want to bring people into that loop of what the reference that you were making. While we're on the subject, let me springboard into this, if you don't mind. So I really want to find out more about follow-up, but there are a lot of people that can do a great follow-up stuff. I'm real curious. If you don't mind me probing, I'd love to probe about your relationship with the Lord and how you see it impacting your real estate business. Is that okay? Kind of a good direction we can go in?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me just a little bit about that. So you're a Christian. First off, let's make sure everyone's. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you to say I'm a Christian, and what does your relationship with the Lord mean? And then I want to inquire about how it impacts your business. You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
Well, I'm probably a rebel in my faith, and I guess that stems from, where we come from as far as my background. I mean, it's Apostolic Lutheran was the original base, and a lot of them turned to legalism and really, really strict things, from no birth controls to earrings are a sin and all of this stuff that where we totally forgot about grace. And so not that I'm like we're all sinners, but I'm a rebel in my faith that I don't want anything good I do to come through me. That comes through Christ Jesus. I don't even want to know when I'm doing good or that. I just, it scares me to fall into legalism because I feel like that is the devil's way of taking some Christians when they think they're doing good, and that it is all Christ. So for me, when it says Christian, it is Christ. He did it all. He paid it all. And that's where I want to stay. So if I have a glass of wine or I say a cuss word or that doesn't make me not a Christian. It makes me have a Savior. So grace is where I live and breathe. So, and it may come across that how can this girl be a Christian because she likes to have fun or do this but that's why I'm so hard against not focusing on the sin so much, but as focusing on our Savior.
Yeah.
So
I love that, and I think there's a lot of folks that kind of get caught up. Let's talk legalism. I'm real curious. Not getting into big detail, but just kind of conceptually, in your mind, what is legalism? And here's what I'm asking for. So there are a lot of people out there that are listening to this that may not understand the difference between grace and legalism, and really kind of what that means, or maybe what are the things to watch out for. okay, if that's the right term to use, but where they are, maybe they think they're doing it right, but they find out they're following a set of laws instead of grace. Can you give me just your, kind of your simple definition of legalism versus grace? What does that mean?
I think it probably would come down to works, and when it's that personal relationship with Christ that you need to have, and realize that we are all sinners, whether we follow this set of rules or we don't follow this set of rules, where there is don't, but I think there's a lot of do's. You know what I mean? Like, they do this exactly right, and it's almost like a perfectionist path. So either the set of rules of don't or do, we're all sinners, and that Jesus paid that, whether what that set of rules is. And so I think breaking of that and living, knowing that Jesus paid it all, brings a lot of freedom, because I've seen a lot of people struggle really, really bad when they are just like need to be like reminded of forgiveness of sins and that kind of thing, where they're so, it's hard to explain unless you've seen it, but it's.
Can you give me an example? I mean, just something that comes to mind where, someone struggled because of this legalism approach. And
well, I mean, yeah, I think I've seen it in people going down paths where maybe they had, like, for example, like drinking was super bad in our religion, but it was almost like, well, they messed up, so then they like went off the deep end and got more into drugs and drinking, instead of being like, well, if you messed up and got drunk one time, it's okay. You know what I mean? So it brings them, when they are pounded in their head so much that sin and you can't sin and you can't sin, you just totally wipe out what Jesus did in that grace. So,
it says
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that hit me is Romans 8. Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And when you mention that, I think, so, I guess, let me see if this makes sense. Legalism is that part where you're always condemned. You're feeling condemned.
Right.
You can never do good enough. And the
Right.
grace is that part says, hey, I understand I'm a sinner, but in Christ there's no condemnation, and He's going to help me through this, and it's not the end.
Right.
Is that kind of
Right.
a simple? Okay.
Right. I mean, yeah, or like Pharisees and that, where the judgment and that, it just, I've seen that so much, and so many problems come from that is where I don't want to. And I have a perfectionist nature, and I am a rule follower. You know what I mean? But I don't, so I could go down that road easily, where I could, and then become judgmental in what you're doing but I'm like, I've seen it mess up people so much that's why my faith, I just want to give it all to Christ and give it to Him, because it is what He did, and that's where the focus is. And then it's weird because, like, if you focus on the no, don't, our human nature wants to do what we're not supposed to do. And if you focus on Christ, and then that's where it says, like, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, and things like that it becomes easier if you're focusing on Christ. You're actually doing good without knowing you are. So I feel like focus on Christ instead of a list of do's or don'ts really, really, and it brings freedom. You know what I mean? And you have fun in life, and you enjoy life, instead of like, I messed up again, let me get whipped. You know what I mean?
Paul talks about renewing your mind, and I think it's a lot of times we focus so much on don't do, I have to do it this way, trying to be good.
Right.
But the reality
Right.
is what you're talking about is when we have Christ and we focus on Christ, then He lives in us and through us, and we more and more naturally do good and more naturally avoid bad. And it's inside out as opposed to outside in. How does your relationship, talk to me a little bit about how you apply it in your business. So, I got your voicemail, and you try to share, be blessed, just helping. What other things do you do? How do you live your Christian life as a realtor? And how has it impacted your business?
Well, I don't know if I'm great. I guess I don't wear my heart on my sleeves, but maybe people see, because, Christ is in me, maybe people see that, and I'm not shy, you know what I mean? I'm not totally politically correct or watch and hide my faith. I will share my faith, and so I don't know if like I said, because I'm afraid of a list of do's and don'ts. I just kind of live. Can
you give me an example? And not to bring attention to you, but here's kind of what I'm, for those who are listening who do follow the Lord, and they want to have a more meaningful, impact in life, rather than saying, well, I'm a real estate agent here, and then I try to do my Christian stuff there. Can you give me an example of just how this flows into your business? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I guess not hiding it kind of means a lot in this day and age. Not being afraid to say I love Jesus is, people do. They get fearful of it. They want to. They think it's going to hurt someone's, and then building a business with integrity, honesty. Like I'm almost honest to a fault, I guess. You know what I mean? And I shouldn't say honest, but I should say blunt. Very much. You won't have to guess my opinion. You won't have to guess what I'm thinking. I'm very, blunt in that way. I don't know if that is a fault, but I feel like it's good. I feel like people appreciate that, and they know where they stand, especially in transactions or something. It's not, I think that it makes me a fairly good negotiator as far as deals and stuff like that. And I feel like people see my that I'm ethical in that, and that I try to just do my best on every transaction, and I feel like that should mean something, and I think that people do appreciate that. So,
is there anything that stands out where you can look at a transaction or a negotiation or some interaction where you did it differently than you would have done it if you didn't have the relationship with the Lord that you have? Does that make sense? Trying to a contrast.
That would be easy to do in every circumstance. You know what I mean? Like, but
give me an example. Give me an example, just to kind of articulate what this means.
I feel like you could be so unethical, and real estate brokers are. In so many ways. I can't pinpoint an example, but you just lying. You know what I mean? Sometimes it'd be easier to say you have a multi-offer situation, or that's way lower than that other offer, or anything like that. Just being honest in every transaction, and and not even stretching the truth makes your job harder. It really can, So, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I am honest to a fault, but I'm not going to say if there's a multi-offer situation, or, oh yeah, I have an offer on the table or something if it's not there. Like I won't, that my integrity means more to me than that transaction. So, I've never done that. So I don't know a particular transaction, but I'm sure that I could have definitely made things easier on me had I fibbed a little bit. So.
No, I get it. Hey, I want to pursue two more questions, lines of questions. I want to go back, if I can, to the follow-up, and then come back to your relationship with Christ. On the follow-up and what you do, so we were talking about your list, keeping your list clean. And the thing that hit me, because we deal, as you know, with a lot of agents who come to us to help them market to their sphere of influence and past clients. And the one biggest challenge most of them have is they don't have a list. Or they have a list that's not been updated because they've never really seen the value of it. And so you putting that effort and emphasis into your list is really great. Can you give any hints or suggestions of how to make that process easy? Does that, what have you found, or what type of things have you put in place so that it stays updated?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a new agent out, just start number one, whether it be a notebook, paper, and write everything. And I mean, obviously, a computer system's easier. I've used Top Producer, and then they've kind of, 14 years later, you don't really want to shut it down and start over. But now I have a system where when it closes, you just have them fill out a little thing, and then it asks you if you want to transfer. So if it's a buyer we're working with, that'll transfer to their address. And obviously, it changes, but now then you can automate things and that kind of stuff. But I mean, even if you're new, just get their information. Don't be afraid to ask for their information.
So
you're working with them.
So you have a system. I love it. And this, I think, is what I'm looking for. You personally and you and your team, y'all have somewhere in your process where you are specifically asking them for their information so you can get it all in the database. When does that come out? Is it at closing? Is that when you're basically making sure you're getting all the information accurate? Or
Yeah, I mean, we've created it with a survey, so we're getting that testimonial or feedback, and it's just a sheet. And I mean, if you worked with them in that, and to bring to the closing table, and just we try the best we can on that, and then we update our database based off of that. So so yeah, we do that at closing. But I mean, anytime you feel like, some people say it's better to do it up front, you know what I mean? Because they've been through the headache of a transaction and everything, so they like you the best, the first day. So, but I mean, I feel like we keep pretty good rapport and have them say good things at closing, so we do it then. But wherever you felt more comfortable, it's just a matter of getting that information, and then.
And then what do you do?
I mean,
What do you do with it once you have it? So now you've built this database, you're getting it updated. Are you doing anything special with it?
Well, we have different, so depending on where the lead came from, I have a site called upstatebankownedhomes.com. So when I did some of my best work when the economy crashed, because I started that site with a stealth site that led to mine, and I was giving bank auction list, which I still get phone calls that are like, "Where's my list this month?" You know what I mean? So it depends on what because we have a computer system, we can put them as where they buyer 2018, seller 2018, where they did they come on for a bank owned and they're just getting the auction list on a monthly basis or what? So it depends where we categorize them, what they get. So.
Okay.
And then follow up emails for past clients, all that kind of stuff. So we can set up campaigns and do it that way. So
have you found one or two things among all the things you do to be most effective? So you have the kind of the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do generates 80% of your business. Have you found anything like that with your follow up with any of this?
I mean, I think the phone calls would do the best. I mean, and that is where my fault comes in. But I know my buyer's agents are calling their past clients on a regular basis, more regular basis than me. But that's where the new agents and that once you have to go back to the basics and pound the pavement, follow up and call those people. I think there's still, especially in this technology age, there's nothing like a phone call. So
that is so true, very much. Let me, and then last question on just this line of questioning, and then I want to talk one more thing, and then we'll wrap up the call. At the beginning of the call, you were talking about follow-up. In terms of, and I'm assuming you're talking about that when you have a buyer prospect or a seller prospect, you're following up the whole time, or are you talking about once you have this database in place that you're following up with the whole time? Where's your biggest emphasis on the follow-up that you've experienced personally that you do? Does that make sense? Follow-up is so important. Where do you find it? What part of your follow-up is driving your business? And I wanted to see if you could share a little bit about what you do in that follow-up, or how you do it, or just kind of peel back that onion a little bit more and share what you've found to be successful.
I mean, where you're kind of basing your company on was founded through like 33 Touch and Keller Williams, and I mean that it does. So they remember you. So I mean, just the emails, and we try to do even Facebook stuff and Instagram. Like I have a social media calendar where it's like, there's a day for everything now. So you just whatever. And then as far as Easter goes or something like that, and then you can do the same thing through holidays and kind of set up a campaign that you're just following up with past clients. And then we just have it set up automated. So they're getting on top of the Monday morning coffees, they're getting the Happy Easter, Happy New Year's, all that kind of stuff. So I guess the biggest thing is the more automated you can bring things, then it's just done. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to, even in like the social media where we're doing, to look at the calendar on a daily basis and get that post out there. It sounds so easy, but when you get busy, so if you can just automate the post even, or automate the emails and that kind of stuff, and people appreciate that, just, so, but you should probably get on the phone and say happy birthday too, so.
Yes.
So
that follow-up is really almost stay in touch with them, as opposed to constant following up for a specific transaction. Just staying in touch so that when a transaction is available, then...
Yeah, I think the follow-through, once the transaction is where I would say the follow-through. So you're not just like, trying to get to the closing table. That's where kind of my loan officer background, where I know what to ask for when, and I have closing coordinators now. But, I mean, I pounded the pavement. I mean, before I could afford admins and all of that, I mean, I was up 2, 3 in the morning. I have 4 children as well. Like you put them to bed and then you work and then you wake up in the morning and put them to school and you work again, as you grow. But I didn't just get to 22 million. I worked. I mean, it's not like you just jump into this and do 22 million in transactions. So,
and definitely not with 4 children and being a full-time mom.
No.
Definitely not.
So, yeah, I remember talking to my best friend many nights at 2 in the morning. Like, she's a photographer and she would be editing and doing that all. And now, we're like, when's the last time we've done that? Like, no, we're sleeping now. But before, I mean, she would be editing photos and I would be putting in listings and doing everything. So, now it takes a village. Yeah. But yeah, we did pound our pavement. So.
Hey, let me ask you one final question before we wrap up. Back on your relationship with the Lord, have there been any times, we were talking before we started the call about, life is full of challenges. Is there anything, I'd love if you could, is there, to share a challenge where, just your relationship with the Lord really helped you through it? And I don't know if that makes sense what I'm asking for, but just kind of a broad question. But, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I guess, I don't know, I joke about God wanting me to have so many anchors in heaven, but I have lost a lot of significant people in my life, very close. I lost my brother of cancer when I was 8, and he was 5 in 1988. I've lost my fiance. He was building our house framing, and he fell 20 feet and passed away of head injury. And that I was engaged to be married, and he died 2 months before our wedding. I've lost my baby in the womb at 26 weeks. I lost him. And I've questioned God, I mean, it's, I don't think I would be living, breathing without Jesus. I would be a total drug addict or something. I don't know how you get through stuff like that without Jesus, without the hope that, I will see Dan again and I will see Micah again. And, I asked God in particular about my baby because I don't understand how he wanted to put a baby in my womb if I was never going to have that joy, and he wasn't going to be in this earth. And he answered me that he wouldn't have been a soul. He wouldn't have been a being. He wouldn't be in heaven if he hadn't put him in my womb. He was just meant for heaven. So I live and breathe and stand going through some really, really hard stuff in life. And I'm, I to wake up, to live every day, I just don't understand how people do stuff like that without Christ. I just absolutely don't understand. So, tough stuff, but I feel like I'm not poor me. I live, I'm excited. I love life. I'm not on any anxiety medicines. I'm not on any antidepressants. I'm not on any of that. And the only way that I can have joy in life after such traumatic events is because of Christ. So, I don't understand how people do things like that without Christ. I mean, so you ask me, I'm like, there's just no other way to do it, but with the hope of salvation. Like, I just couldn't even imagine myself if I didn't have Christ in those in my life in everything he's brought me through. And it had, like, I guess Dan, my fiance who passed away, she's lost a lot, his mother, and Carl, Dan's brother, passed away in a similar thing, and we're thinking it's probably a heart condition of some sort now, because even though Dan fell, he was like an agile, he was 22, and he was really agile, really fit, and his brother saw him fall, and he fell like a rag doll. And Carl now, he died in the tub, and they really don't know what happened. But when Carl died, it took me, like, God hit me, because it was like almost a relief, because when you go through such traumatic things, you're worried about what's around the next corner and what you know what I mean? What you're scared of, what can happen, and you're fearful. And God hit me, like, because I was like, my heart just went to Jan, which was Carl and Dan's mother. Like, how could you do this again to her? And he told me, look, Joanna, you live, breathe. When I bring you to something, I will bring you through it. And, you know, that's grace too. Man, you're making me cry. That's a wonderful Jesus to have me, and I'm successful, and yes, but to have any kind of joy in life. And Jan's joyful too. And you could probably interview her. She's a wonderful woman, and she's a real estate broker as well. But man, it's just that's grace, and that's a wonderful Jesus where I can live and breathe and be excited about life and what is going to happen, and not be fearful, because he created it all, and he did it all, and he created heaven, and we'll see him all again. So yeah, sorry.
No,
I told you I could go deep.
Yes,
So
I love it. What hits my mind is perfect love casts out fear. And I remember doing a eulogy for a man I had just met a couple months prior. And the thing that stood out is, you know, his family's going to see him again. And when you have that hope in Christ, then a loss is a lot easier to bear.
And I mean, I'm not saying it's not I mean, it was easy, and I'm like, oh, I'm not one to grieve. I mean, it's horribly painful, you know, but it's to even take your next step without Christ that's impossible. Where it says all things through Christ are possible, or you can, when you're in that moment, I don't see any other way that taking your next breath would be possible without Jesus Christ. So,
well, I have always wondered. You know, this is more my objective analysis. When someone goes through tough times and they don't have Christ, how in the world can they ever make it? Because just what you've experienced and what you shared, you can do all things with Christ. It's not. It doesn't mean that the pain is no longer there, but you can make it through. And so that I'm glad you shared that, because I know that other people are going through some tough times and will, and just what an encouragement your story is for them on that. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I mean, we've been all over the board. Anything that you'd like to share before you wrap up? Anything more, I should say.
No, I would just say be blessed. It's that's it. I mean, it all comes through Christ, and I want it for everyone. So be blessed. Be blessed, and if you don't know him, and know that the blessings come. And if you do know him, I mean, just be encouraged in your walk in this life, because I mean, maybe I say life isn't easy, and maybe now they can understand why I say life isn't easy. But I mean, yeah, I would just end with be blessed. So.
Amen. Definitely be blessed. Well, Joanna, this has been really a delight. Thank you. I know you're really busy, especially just coming back from travels, and you got a full load on you, so I really appreciate the time that you've taken out to share your heart on this.
Yeah, I thank you for the opportunity, because it is, and it's coming as I'm approaching 40 pretty quick here, and it is taking those moments and what you can put into people comes more and more important in life. So. Yes,
it does. And I love your comment earlier. Invest in people. It's for eternity. That wasn't your exact words, but just. Well, thank you. And for those listening, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe so you get more of these. If you're on iTunes or YouTube, you can like it. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. So, Joanna, thank you again, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode, and please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at GetSellersCallingYou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.